Well, hello there, my dear viewers and listeners. Episode 8 is here. Few things before we begin. First, as you probably noticed, episode 8 was split into 2 parts, because script was 40 pages long. So, rather than 1 2-hour-long video, I will give you 2 1-hour-long videos. The first part premieres today, and the second tomorrow. So don't worry, you won't have to wait long for part 2. Next thing, voice actors. Tia Boba, also known as Luffy, returns to voice Commander True Strike. And Cartolio decided to voice Commissar Stanislav Sereyegov once again. I am thankful to them both for their support. I would also like to give special thanks to the artists. Old friend of the channel, Hayden Lumpkin, Magnificent Makawi, Amazing 3D Vincents, and Brilliant Kubik Kuratko. All who made amazing pieces for this episode, most of which you will see in part 2. It is thanks to your donations through Ko-fi that I can support artists and commission real art, rather than use AI slop. Next on the list, to those who don't know, I use CapCut for editing my videos. Sadly, the subscription ran its course, so I'm gathering funds for a year-long subscription on my Ko-fi. Now, a tragedy won't happen if we don't gather all the money. I found somewhat cheaper alternative. We are good way to secure money for that one, though I will have to relearn a few things. Anyway, if we don't gather enough money for a year-long CapCut subscription, I will purchase the cheaper program, and the remaining money will be redirected to the art budget, which I think it's fair. Now, second to last thing. A lot of people ask me if I will post scripts to Star Wars X Warhammer 40k series somewhere for people to read. Because not all people like listening to stories, or they have problem with hearing. So here is the deal. I'm expanding the $1 tier Patreon supporters with a full list of scripts for Star Wars X Warhammer 40k series all the way to the 7th episode. You will get access to episode 8 after I post episode 9. You will be 1 episode behind. The reason for it is because the most up-to-date scripts are available to my $6.66 tier supporters, so I can't take their exclusive access away and give it away for free or $1. I also created fanfiction account, where you get access to the scripts for free, but you will be 3 episodes behind, so only to episode 5. That's about as fair a deal I can offer, while also doing my best to still get paid for my work. I apologize, but we all need money to live. So hey, if you can spare even that $1 per month, I will be grateful for your support. It would make my life easier as well. All links in the pinned comment below. And last thing, before the video commences. No Q&A under this video. None. 0. You can put all Q&As under part 2 that will come out tomorrow. I will even remind you by the end of the video. If you put Q&A under part 1, This question will be ignored. Everyone got that? Splendid! Click the damn like button and subscribe to the channel as well. You know what to do. Now, without further delay, let's begin. Ravax drew a long breath, tasting the air of a new world. Furious Ned, the Tau name for it. A modest colony, a frontier planet. Easy prey, or so Zero and the Hats had promised. Yet before he could even make Planetfall in force, he'd already lost 11 ships, one of his finest lieutenants, and nearly the entire contingent of unallied pirate captains. The Alaco Strikers, a band of Weequay marauders, were almost annihilated. The Alaco twins had always fought as one, but when the first perished in orbit, his ancient long-beam corvette reduced to ash, the second charged headlong for the surface, only to be cut down by anti-orbital cannon. The survivors, hot-blooded and leaderless, rushed the Tau defenses and were nearly obliterated. Not long after, his lieutenant, Zarash, landed to keep the pressure on, only to die with dozens of his fighters when the Tau counterattacked with those formidable battlesuits. An unavoidable waste of men and material. Ravax strode towards the remaining Weequay and Trandoshan pirates, who stood in something resembling a formation before his shuttle. Each heavy step made the ground tremble. He seethed. They had attacked without orders, without a plan. Still, they had tested the enemy lines for him, and the fools responsible for the debacle were already dead. Nothing to gain by punishing those who remained. Besides, he needed every fighter he could keep. Dulak! Ravur! His sharp mind matched names to faces as he called them out. A Weequay and a Trandoshan stepped forward, both trembling. Your leaders were fools, and now they are dead fools, he announced in a low, menacing voice. Show me you are not the same, and there will be a place for you in my fleet. Take speeders and hunting beasts, sweep the surrounding forest, and secure our landing zone. When you've finished, or if you find anything, report back. The two pirates blinked, clearly surprised by the chance to prove themselves, then hurried off to obey. The rest of the crew quickly formed teams and rushed to their new task. With a bit of luck, they might yet prove useful. Ravax exhaled and rubbed his eyes. This raid was becoming nothing but a headache. The spoils had better be worth it. A heavily modified B-1 commander droid, painted crimson and yellow, approached. Beside it came an elderly dark-scaled Trandoshan, missing his left eye. Ravax turned to the old hunter and gave a curt nod. Vrozak, he said. Report! The reptile let out a harsh huff. The Tau have fallen back behind the inner wall of the city. Their shields are strong. Tank shells and bombing runs did nothing. We will need real firepower," he said evenly. "I doubt our artillery will suffice. For now, I've ordered our forces to hold near the tree line. Scouts are probing the remains of the outer wall and surveying the ground behind the shield." "Good work," Ravax replied, then faced the B1. "Crimson Zero, your assessment." Observation: enemy deployed a limited number of armored vehicles and battlesuits in the initial counterattack. Conclusion: their armored strength is minimal. Assessment: we retained significant armor superiority. Theory: troops deployed from our 4 C9979s may be sufficient to size the city. Clarification: if the shield is neutralized. It said in its clipped monotone. "And that's a very big if," Wrozak hissed, mocking the machine. 40 tanks fired on that barrier and it didn't even ripple. We could throw every tank we have and maybe see a crack, but we need heavier guns. He pointed skyward. "I'd rather not burn through ammunition on the shield when we still have to breach the inner wall. Scouts report it stands 14 meters high and is heavily defended. Worse, there is more than a kilometer of open ground between the outer and inner walls. The Tau will bleed us on the approach, just as they bled the first 2 waves. Over 40 vehicles lost, including 13 tanks, and about 200 dead." Crimson Zero inclined his head. Observation: the Tau's boasts about their soldiers' professionalism were not exaggerated. Comparison: the militias we usually encounter never inflict casualties on this scale. "So it seems." Ravax clenched his jaw, irritated that, for once, a government had not overstated its troops' abilities. "Come, I want to see it with my own eyes." The droid and the old Trandoshan followed without question. They moved through the lumber camp that now served as a pirate landing zone. Shuttles and freighters bustled around them, and the 2 massive C9979s unloaded their full complements of vehicles and troops. Ravax allowed himself a brief grin at the sight of a mere fraction of his personal droid army. He brought more than 12,000 droids for this raid. Overkill, he'd thought at the time. Zero had demanded a show of force, a spectacle to crush resistance and level the settlement. Now he was grateful for that vanity. From what he's seen so far, even those numbers might not be enough. The trio stepped onto a hoverpod, which lifted off and skimmed towards the wall. Below, tanks, transports and ranks of droids stretched in every direction. AATs and snail tanks, sleek hailfire droids, towering homing spider droids. Usually the mere sight of such power shattered a defender's resolve. Many colonies had surrendered without a shot, choosing slavery over annihilation. But the Tau remained unmoved. Every offer of surrender had been ignored. Ravax tightened his grip on the pod's railing, fury smoldering. He could tolerate many things, insults, losses, but not being dismissed. When the tree line finally broke, he understood their confidence. The open ground leading to the outer wall was littered with wreckage and bodies. The scene was more gruesome than Ravax had imagined. Tau weapons clearly carried a brutal punch. He saw fist-sized holes in corpses, limbs torn away, bodies charred until pale bone showed through blackened flesh. A wrecked WL-05 speeder tank lay nearby. He noted 2 holes, one in each flank. What remained of the crew, mowed Trandoshan slurry van flesh, spattered the ground. A high-velocity round had punched clearly through the hull, sucking the crew out of the exit hole and reducing solid bodies to liquid gore. Ravax clenched his jaw, claws digging into the hoverpod's railing. So many dead on his side, so few on theirs. Barely 24 defenders lay among the wreckage, Tau and human alike. Only 3 destroyed vehicles and 2 shattered battlesuits. He turned his gaze to the wall, or what remained of it. The tank line had battered it to ruin, yet it still impressed. 7 meters high, studded with turrets. Few settlements he raided even had walls, fewer still such fortifications. Even fewer had shields, and this one had a shimmering energy dome starting a mere 300 meters past the ruin of the outer barrier. Raising his binoculars to the inner defenses, a chill settled over him. Wrozak had been right. The second wall towered twice as high and bristled with even more guns, all scanning the open killing ground. "Open assault is not an option," he growled, fury rising at the challenge before him. "Even with the shield down, our forces would be slaughtered crossing that field."
Agreement. Projected casualties extremely high.
Crimson Zero intoned.
"Then let's bomb them from orbit,"
Wrozak rumbled.
"Level the settlement. End it."
No!
Ravak's eyes narrowed.
"If I did that, I'd be mocked. Great Ravaks the Red, unable to seize a single colony, even with his droid legions? No."
He shook his head.
"We need slaves, spoils, trophies, not ashes." Then why send that message if you fear looking weak?
Wrozak pressed. From anyone else, the question would have meant death, but Wrozak was too valuable, too seasoned to waste.
"Because sharing the hunt builds reputation,"
Ravax said slowly.
"Sharing the spoils spreads my name. Those who come to witness my strength and the wealth and captives they might claim could become allies, even lieutenants."
He turned back towards the settlement, crimson eyes gleaming.
"We will need more bodies. With eager cannon fodder, perhaps we can spare our own. Or, when reinforcements arrive, a new path may open."
He waited for Wrozak's reaction. The old Trandoshan huffed, clearly displeased, but gave a curt nod of acceptance.
Excitement. Speaking of which, Master,
The droid interjected.
we have received a transmission from Nor Shaltor. He and his rightful rulers will arrive in system within 1.5 hours.
Ravax allowed himself a rare smile at the news. He turned towards the river cutting through the Tau settlement, plans already taking shape in his mind.
"Good. Back to the base,"
he ordered the pilot, and the hoverpod banked into the wide turn.
"Recall our skirmishers and scouts. Once they are clear, tell the fleet to open fire on that shield."
He rubbed his chin, crimson eyes glinting.
"The Tau defenses will fall. It's only a matter of time."
Sarosh furrowed his brow as he stepped into the dimly lit corridor, blaster rifle raised. No one, not a soul. That was unsettling. 8 minutes had passed since the main strike force had split into teams. They boarded the strange sphere-shaped station, yet there were no alarms, no shouts of panic, no warning klaxons, only an oppressive, eerie silence. And something more. It's humid, he said, startled by how loud his own voice sounded. What? Vrask tilted his head, lowering his array gun to glance at him. I said it's humid, Sarosh repeated. Smell that? Water, plants, animals. This doesn't smell like a space station. Not a typical one, Krozik agreed. The Trandoshan warrior sniffed the air, his Wookiee bowcaster held with practiced ease. But there are biosphere habitats, orbital hunting grounds. It could be the same idea. Above a garden world. Sarosh shook his head, unconvinced. Well, the briefing said the sphere was crude in design, not Tau, offered Trask, the newest member of their team. Maybe the crude just like their stations built as biospheres. Sarosh sniffed the air again, weighing their options. But before he could speak, the largest, most brutish member of his squad broke in. Why it smells this way is irrelevant, Trash said flatly, as ever. This is our new hunting ground. We take what has value and capture slaves. That's the job. He hefted a heavy blaster repeater and adjusted the shocknet launcher strapped across his back. Sarosh was about to reply when a faint sound froze him. He swung his rifle toward the corridor, eyes narrowing. The others followed suit, weapons snapping up in silent accord. They held their breath for a long moment. Then Sarosh exhaled a quiet hiss. I believe we are being watched, he whispered. Let's introduce ourselves. The team advanced, weapons sweeping the shadows. They moved through the corridor where green vines crawled over one wall and strange runes marked the other. Ignoring both, they pressed deeper into the war sphere. Behind them, after they passed and turned another corner, the vines shivered. A pair of black eyes opened, quills giving a soft, dry rattle as a crude warrior slid from hiding. Dropping to all fours, he tasted the air, savoring the scent of prey that had so obligingly entered his domain. He sent a series of clicks and chirps across a frequency few other species could detect. The answer came swiftly from the darkness. The hunt had begun.
I won't lie to you, Commander. This doesn't look ideal,
said the flickering image of ex-Commissar Seregov.
They're mustering quite a force in the east. At least 100 of those snail tanks reported in the southern attack are being deployed.
He paused.
Not much infantry yet, but they're clearly bringing in more.
Wars in the south, Zahandur added. Scouts and infiltrators report at least twice that number gathering there, perhaps more. Scout teams report that, Skullguard began, but a flash and a thunderous boom cut him off. Koka looked up as red and green plasma bolts rained from the sky and hammered the shield. It held firm, and a quick glance at the integrity display showed it could withstand many more hours of bombardment. About 7 decks, precisely the time needed for the patrol fleet to arrive. exactly as Captain Victor's Light had promised. Just enough time to endure. True Strike exhaled slowly.
Continue, Major,
she said. Skullguard hesitated, eyes still on the shield, then resumed. As I was saying, scout teams confirm the pirates who landed northeast of the city have split into 2 groups. One is massing near the closest bridge, the other has moved towards the cursed bridge. He sighed. Technically it isn't finished, but it could support infantry and hover tanks. With luck it will collapse under them. Captain Zelenko scoffed. True Strike allowed herself the same hope.
with the shields up, we have time to reorganize.
She ordered.
I want elements of the security and garrison cadres moved deeper into the city to serve as reserves and rapid response units. Cadets will integrate with fire teams from Enlightened Traveler and stay in reserve as well. My command cadre and Chazelle Noedel's hunter cadre will operate as fast strike forces. Our battlesuits can reach any hotspot quicker than anyone else.
No one objected. I doubt those scum will wait long. Her second-in-command, Noedel, Nomad, said, rubbing his chin. Shokai Island is the obvious target. The river defenses aren't as strong as the inner wall, and much of the island has been cleared of trees, but not built up. An amphibious landing would be most logical move. True, and if the island falls, the bastards will have a clear line to our generator district, including the one powering the shields. Skullguard said. If the shield drops, we will face their artillery, and the sky dominated by enemy craft. The situation isn't ideal, Zahandur replied. But our defensive position is strong. With guns we have, we can hold them off.
Assuming the enemy doesn't have a surprise up their sleeve.
Koka said evenly.
And since this is a new galaxy with an unfamiliar foe, they almost certainly do.
She closed her eyes briefly.
I'll instruct Fio Oshodras to direct our drones to build more barricades, lay tank traps, and prepare explosives. Our primary objective is to hold the line until reinforcements arrive.
She glanced at the tactical map.
Assassinations and ambushes will be most effective once the enemy commits.
Where about the civilians still outside the city?
Seregov asked, narrowing his eyes.
We can't reach them now.
True Strike said, her voice tinged with regret.
I instructed stealth and scout teams to redirect civilians away from pirate forces if they encounter them. I've also requested aid from our Kroot allies to help civilians where possible.
The ex-commissar nodded, clearly dissatisfied with the limitations, but understanding. It pained her that she couldn't ride out and save everyone. But the simple truth was, any direct intervention would be a suicide. Even her elite battlesuit teams couldn't punch through so many enemy troops and vehicles.
Hold your ground. Observe our enemies. Be ready for anything.
She commanded. One by one, the commanders confirmed, their images vanishing from her view. The cockpit of her crisis suit returned to quiet calm. True Strike looked up at the sky, watching bolts of energy hammer the projective dome with relentless intensity. You doing any better? Strong Strike asked, approaching Esksa. His fellow cadet glanced up from her wounded leg, which she'd been staring at for some time. Better, but not good enough to fight, she rumbled. I hear Zunjida is already up and running. Her wound wasn't as bad as yours, Reka said with a small smile. You got it worse. The only bad thing about me is my luck, she shot back. Not as bad as Joyful Roar. Strong Strike added quietly. They lapsed into silence, remembering their comrade and friend, the fellow cadet, who had died. That idiot. Really gone, isn't he? Forceful Dagger whispered, closing her eyes. Strong Strike said nothing, simply standing there. He wanted to become Monat, a commando. He had the skill for it, and now he's gone.
Yes.
Strong Strike muttered after a pause. They stayed silent for a long moment. Death was familiar to them. They were of a fire caste after all. But familiarity didn't ease the grief. I lost 2 siblings and my father, Esksa said slowly. I had just begun training in the Fire Dome. I remember crying to my mentors, locking myself in small, dark places so no one could see my shame.
There is no shame in grief,
Strong Strike said firmly.
Pain is the inevitable result of love.
She looked at him, really looked, and smiled. For a brick brain, you do have some wisdom tucked in that oversized head of yours. She chuckled.
It must be oversized to hold all my ego. He grinned back.
They laughed briefly, then lapsed into quiet again. You lost someone as well, didn't you? She asked after a moment. Strong Strike was silent, then nodded. Who?
My 2 mothers and my older sister,
he said quietly.
On Mugulaf Bay.
Esksa studied him closely, her sharp mind already connecting the dots. You are Ashenblade's son, aren't you? Reka grimaced and made a sign of a silent forest.
Please, don't tell anyone. I wanted to be seen as myself, not just as his son.
She exhaled slowly. Well, some things make sense now. You always kept your family a secret. Some even suspected you came from an artificial womb, genetically enhanced to become the giant you are. She chuckled. But no, you are just a natural freak of nature.
Well, that's a nice thing to hear,
Reka said, pursing his lips. Sorry. Esksa laughed softly. Don't worry, I won't tell a soul. And honestly, nobody really cares about that anymore. They like you too much.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
Strong Strike began when the booming sound cut through the air. It wasn't the usual bombardment hammering the shield. Soldiers, even the wounded, scrambled to windows. The noise came from the south. No, southwest, to be precise. A lance of fire slowly descended from the sky. Strong Strike grabbed his helmet, slid it on and activated the integrated binoculars. Through smoke and flame, he made out the source. What is it? Esksa asked, sitting up in her bed.
It's a ship.
Strong Strike breathed, disbelief in his voice. And not a small one. Over 200 Thor-leg tall, probably closer to 220 meters, the measurement the Gwevesa used. It was shaped like a massive missile, but it descended slowly, its enormous engines controlling its speed.
It's a transport,
he muttered, eyes narrowing, heart racing.
A big one.
Since the retreat behind the inner wall, enemy bombardment continued, forcing the shield to remain raised. Yet more and more transport ships descended, carrying the forces that would strike at the Tau Empire. Before he could say another word, a beep sounded inside his helmet. It was Trainer Conan. Second Command Cadre is ordered to move to Shokai Island to help relocate civilians from shelters there to the city center. The trainer's voice announced. We anticipate the enemy will strike those positions soon. They've gathered enough forces that civilian safety isn't guaranteed. You trained for this scenario. Your task is to ensure a rapid relocation and defend civilians if threatened. Muster at exit B3. We depart immediately. Strong Strike glanced at Esksa to speak, but she simply made a sign of a duty over comfort. He smiled, returning her sign with one of the tenacity of a wounded predator, before sprinting toward exit B3, prepared to do his duty. An old Quarren strode down the shuttle ramp into the encampment. The temporary base on the surface buzzed with activity. A small field hospital, ammunition storage, a rearming and refueling zone for vehicles, and then there were slaves. Lots of them. Mostly human, but a few Tau, and some uncannily familiar lizard people calling themselves Tarelians had also been captured. The city had yet to fall, and he already had hundreds of slaves to sell. Trandoshan warlord moved forward to meet the Quarren, dressed like a pirate king. You smell like a dead fish, Nor, Ravak said darkly. And you look as if one shit you out, Nor shot back. A tense silence stretched between them. Then both burst into laughter. Ah, good to see you, old friend, Ravak said, grinning. How's your fleet? Growing. I managed to snag another MC-30 frigate from the Mon Calamari a few months back. Nor replied, his tone darkening. Those damn fish mock my kind with their designs. They take all we mine and turn it into art. Arrogant bastards. Mon Calamari were always prideful and arrogant. Ravak agreed. But don't dwell on them now. There is opportunity here, and you are exactly the kind of person I need. Really? Nor looked around, eyes sweeping over the vast number of slaves. I'd say you've got things under control. Even if the city holds, you've captured enough to make this raid profitable. Destroying the city is my goal, Ravak countered. The Tau need to be taught a lesson about who truly rules the Outer Rim. Is that why you invited every pirate in the region? Nor asked, unconvinced. In part, but the Tau have proven a far more problematic and capable foe than I was led to believe. I have enough forces to take them down, but the casualties would be severe, Ravak admitted. So, you called in others to share in the bleeding, Nor said, nodding, including me. For a proper share of the spoils, Ravak replied. And I meant it when I said I need you and your warriors. They stepped into a tent, his makeshift headquarters. Two tall figures stood at the edge of a hastily constructed holotable in the center. One was clearly a droid, though of a design unique even among the galaxy's endless automatons. Its face was the most striking feature, a parody of a Quarren skull, save for a circular device attached to the base of its cranium. The other figure was a Skakoan, encased in the full body protective suit of their kind. Nor felt a twinge of nervousness. A single breach in that methane-based suit could turn the Skakoan into walking explosive. This is High Singer, Ravax introduced, leader of the independent droid mercenary group Cold Code. And this is Cordo Fain, a former Techno-Union acquisition expert. Nor inclined his head toward High Singer. He knew the droid bounty hunter by reputation, though he hadn't realized he ran his own mercenary force composed entirely of droids. He glanced at Fain, noting the man's posture and Ravax's phrasing. There was no doubt in his mind that Skakoan still worked for the Techno-Union, but operating as a rogue agent provided plausible deniability for the corporation, should anything go wrong. We located the Tau generators, Ravax continued, pointing at the holographic map in the center of the room. They are near the tallest spire, most likely their HQ. Several shield projectors are clustered there. Nor needed only a moment to understand what Ravax intended. You want to use my warriors for an underwater assault, he said calmly, analyzing the map. Move along the river for cover, pass beneath the shield, breach their defenses, then strike the generator and take out the shields. You won't strike alone, Ravax said. High Singer will deploy his full group, 12 AZ battle droids, 50 IG-86, with himself leading. I'll deploy 100 of my IG Lancer droids, Fain interjected proudly. Yes. Ravax's eye twitched. And I will send 300 dwarf spider droids and 10 advanced dwarf spider droids. Nor twitched. He knew Ravax had amassed a significant droid force, but this was more than he expected. Everyone in the region knew Ravax possessed a private droid army, and even these numbers were likely only a fraction of his true strength. He cleared his throat. I hardly see why you need my warriors, Ravax, he said. This number of droids should be more than enough to destroy the generator. Without a doubt, but I don't want to strike the generator alone, Ravax replied, shaking his head as he moved to the holographic map. I intend to shatter their defenses completely. He pointed at the west side of the city. First, my forces will strike from the west, on this island, he said. I've amassed enough troops here to engage the defenders and draw their attention away from the river. What forces precisely? Nor asked. In terms of infantry, over 2,000 B1 battle droids, a dozen droiderkas, 24 raider load lifter droids, 200 HKB-3s, 200 Spelunker probe droids, 100 E4 Baron droids, 50 T4 turret droids, and 1,000 of my warriors. Ravax listed. So, roughly 4,000 troops. Nor nodded, prompting him to continue. For vehicles, I brought those capable of passing through the shields. 116 snail tanks, 12 Hailfire droids, 60 ATPTs, 40 homing spiders, 100 dwarf spider droids, and remaining 10 advanced dwarf spider droids. A lot of firepower, Nor said, doing his best to mask his awe. This was the army of a true warlord. The Tau have heavy defenses, and there is a major bottleneck here, Ravax said, pointing at the bridge.
Some of my forces can ride on the sides of snail tanks and attempt amphibious landing, but the majority will have to push through that bridge.
Trandoshan cringed.
Sadly, those B1s are many things, but waterproof isn't one of them. I trust them in the rain, but not marching underwater.
Ravax narrowed his eyes, studying the hologram of the island.
I'm putting so many forces there to keep them tied up.
He gestured toward the river.
During the assault, you, your warriors and the droids will move through the river to the city proper.
His hand traced a path on the map.
Then you emerge, striking across the shoreline, focusing on the generators.
A cruel smile spread across his face.
When the shields fall, remaining forces will strike from all directions. The Tau will be crushed in one final, devastating blow.
Nor scanned the map, counting the gathered forces. He nodded. Many saw Ravax as nothing but a blunt barbarian, but Nor knew better. The man was far more cunning than most believed. I will need time to prepare and deploy my warriors, Nor said after a moment. But you will have them, 800 strong. He paused. The rest will remain in reserve. Ravax was about to reply when his communicator pinged. He activated it.
This better be important, Vrozak,
he growled.
It is, boss,
the old Trandoshan replied, voice cold.
A new fleet just arrived in system. It's Skolan Vargir. I believe he brought his entire clan.
The temperature in the tent seemed to drop several degrees. Every muscle in Ravax's body tensed. Nor narrowed his eyes, keeping his own anger in check.
Damn Mandos,
Ravax hissed.
How many ships?
18.
He expanded his force considerably since your last meeting.
Nor clicked his tongue. Accused exile. Does he intend to strike at you here, of all places, during a raid? Ravax thought for a moment, then shook his head.
Skolan is many things. A bastard, exiled to his own kind, true, but he still holds Mando beliefs and honor, and proving himself superior. No, he won't strike me or any of us. He will try to take all the glory instead.
Highsinger muttered a few words in his strange droid dialect, clearly irritated. Cordo Fayin hummed thoughtfully, then turned to others. Perhaps he can be useful, Fayin suggested. Mandalorians always leap into danger. Super commandos striking from the skies as the shield collapses would force the Tau to stretch even thinner, trying to contain our assault. Ravax grunted, conceding the point.
Hail him and put him on the main hologram.
Moments later, the armored form of Skolan Vargir appeared, seated on the throne adorned with helmets and skulls. His armor was a striking mix of black, orange and gold, with a wolf-shaped sigil engraved on his chestplate. A disintegrator rifle rested by his side.
Ravax,
he said, a single word dripping with contempt and hatred. I had to see it to believe it. The great Red Trandoshan, calling for help because he is too weak to achieve victory on his own.
Skolan Aoud. Oh, no, sorry. You are Skolan Vagir now, aren't you?
Ravax tilted his head, smirking.
How is your little band of wannabe Mandos doing? Any of you got unexiled since our last meeting?
The Mandalorian remained silent, though the jab clearly struck a nerve.
Was your fake clan recognized by real Mandalorians? Or they do still refuse to acknowledge your so-called accomplishments, since you were stripped of your name and exiled?
Skolan tensed, wanting to speak but held his tongue. Everyone knew there was nothing he could say to recover. That was his one weakness. He could inspire loyalty among his warriors, train elite mercenaries in Mandalorian-style discipline, but subtle negotiations with outsiders, the diplomacy that passes between different pirate factions, was never his strength. Only his undeniable skill and lethality had kept him in business this long.
What do you want, Ravax?
The Mandalorian exile growled.
What every self-respecting pirate wants, Vagir. Spoils and glory.
Ravax declared.
Soon we will strike the Tau settlement. Their shields will fall.
He paused, letting the words sink in.
I believe you know how to exploit such an opportunity.
The Mandalorian remained silent for a moment, then tilted his gaze towards something only he could see.
What about the space station in orbit?
Ravax bared his teeth in growl.
That sphere is nothing but a nuisance. It's a maze, and there is nothing of value there. I've already lost dozens of warriors. You are free to try your luck, but I think it will be a waste of time.
Then why not destroy it? The Mandalorian asked.
Do you have any idea how much firepower it would take to shatter something this big? Not to mention the debris that will make transporting slaves to orbiting ships more complicated.
Ravax said, shaking his head.
Waste of time and ammunition. As I said, nothing of value there, but if you want to lose your men in that maze, be my guest.
The Mandalorian was silent again, clearly skeptical.
We shall see how much truth is in your words. Vargir out.
His hologram flickered out, replacing by the three-dimensional map. Ravax growled in frustration.
Let him lose men in the depths of that accursed sphere. He spat. We have bigger plans.
He turned to the others in the room.
Get everything ready. I want to launch the attack within the hour.
Shit! Trask hissed as he surveyed the remains of another boarding party. The dwarf spider droid lay destroyed. A spear, of all things, lodged deep in one of its mechanical eyes. The ground around it was a grisly mix of green and red blood. But there were no bodies. Never bodies.
Where are they?
Krozik demanded, voice tense, bowcaster trembling.
How can there be 6 battle sites and no bodies?
The defenders clearly took them, Sarosh replied.
Not the droids,
Krozik countered.
They leave those behind, but everyone else, gone.
Stop trembling like a slave, Drash growled.
Do you want to lose all grace in the eyes of a scorekeeper?
Invoking the name of Trandoshan goddess seemed to calm the group, if only slightly. Sarosh glanced down at his datapad, grimacing.
Does it work now?
Vrask asked, in his simple-minded tone. Barely. Sarosh said, irritation creeping in. The sphere was a nightmare. Scanners and comms barely functioned, and even a Trandoshan keen sense of smell was overwhelmed by the constant influx of new scents. Sarosh almost lost hope of even finding a way back when his device pinged. "Ha! I have someone," he announced, looking up at the group. "Another boarding party." "Thank the stars," Trask whispered. "Let's link up with them," Krozik said, confidence returning.
"More people, more firepower,"
Drash agreed.
"As long as they are Trandoshans, it will be fine,"
Vrask added. Sarosh didn't care either way. They had been wandering the sphere for over an hour, with no sign of life beside plants and a few strange-looking birds and rats. He led the team toward the other party. A few minutes later, they entered a large corridor and encountered a group of 30 pirates, accompanied by 2 dwarf spider droids and 4 modified Raider load lifter droids equipped with heavy guns and flamethrowers. "You!" Their apparent leader, a Nikto pirate, barked, beckoning them closer.
"Get in here!"
They didn't need further prompting. Sarosh approached the leader. "What's the situation?"
"What do you think, lizard brain?"
The pirate shot back.
"We are in this accursed maze, finding blood spatters and signs of fighting, but no bodies."
He pointed forward.
"We've detected a large chamber ahead. We want to check it out, and if there is nothing of value, trace our way back."
He gestured at the droids.
"They memorized our path."
"Great. This accursed thing hasn't helped us 7 minutes into the boarding," Sarosh muttered, pointing at his scanner.
"Yeah. No idea why, but most scanning equipment fails here."
The Nikto replied, eyes narrowing as he scanned the dark ceiling and ventilation shafts. Sarosh felt it too. They were being observed. The Nikto took a deep breath and shook his head.
"Anyway, find a spot and let's keep moving,"
he ordered. Within moments, the group advanced. They reached massive doors, which they managed to open with little trouble, only to be stunned by what lay beyond. "By the stars," someone muttered. It wasn't a chamber, it was a cavern, a massive, sprawling cavern filled with an actual tropical forest. Plants grew everywhere, while artificial lights mimicked the sun. Voices of countless animals echoed through the indoor wilderness. The Nikto scanned the strange sight, clearly taken aback, but quickly gathered himself.
"Check the outskirts first. If it's just a massive forest chamber, we head back to the ship,"
he decided. No one argued. The group moved cautiously between the trees.
"Ever seen anything like this?"
Krozik asked, still wide-eyed. "No," Sarosh admitted, shaking his head. "And I've seen a lot."
"Why would anyone need a forest inside a ship?"
Trask asked, genuinely confused.
"Maybe it's a hunting ground,"
Drash suggested.
"Or they just like trees."
Vrask chuckled. The other 4 turned to glare at the idiot. Credit where credit was due, he noticed and turned to face them.
"Hey, I'm just saying that."
Vrask never finished his thought. An arrow pierced his neck from behind. A single bloody gasp was all the warning anyone got before the sphere's true owners descended upon them. And descend they did, from the treetops. Muscular, avian aliens with quills running down their heads leapt onto the pirates, screeching in a language, or perhaps an animalistic war cry that no one recognized. Sarosh rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding a pair of swinging blades. He raised his rifle, fired and killed one of the furious Kroot instantly. Moments later, he ducked again as a spear sailed past, impaling a human pirate against a tree. He scanned the chaos. The Kroot were among the pirates, fighting in brutal melee. He spotted the leader, about to call out when a massive shape tore through the trees. His eyes widened. A beast as large as a rancor opened its massive maw and swallowed the unfortunate Nikto pirate in a single bite. Seconds later, more beasts joined the fray. Some dog-like, others flying raptors, bulky primates, and creatures beyond description. Trash fired an electric net at one of the primate-like monsters and its rider, sending both crashing to the ground, screaming as electricity coursed through them. But 3 hounds leapt in, tearing us apart limb by limb. His immense strength was no match for their hunger. "Run!" Sarosh shouted to his 2 remaining companions. They obeyed, firing into melee as they sprinted towards the exit. Sarosh saw the gigantic reptilian beast that had devoured the Nikto ignore volleys from 2 dwarf spider droids, crushing them beneath its clawed feet. He glimpsed a fellow Trandoshan soaring through the air like a ragdoll. And through it all, the screams echoed. The worst sound of all. The screams, the damn screams! The Kroot didn't merely kill their victims, they tore into them, eating them alive. Sarosh watched warriors bite into struggling pirates, the victims' desperate screams echoing in their final moments. Sarosh didn't care. Not about spoils, glory, or how many Jagannatach points he'd lose. He had signed up for many things, but being eaten alive was not one of them. He leapt into a wide tunnel, a handful of pirates following. "Come on, there!" he shouted, spotting a door leading to the side corridor. "Quickly!" A Tatooian pirate smiled, relieved to see a path to safety, only to be struck by a harpoon. The unlucky bastard didn't die immediately, screaming in pain as he was dragged back into the forest. Sarosh didn't stop. Trask followed close behind. He glanced back at Krozik. His comrade was wounded, limping, a knife buried in his leg. "Wait! Please! Wait for me!" Krozik shouted, desperation in his voice. Sarosh ushered Trask through the tunnel and raised his rifle at the door panel. His eyes met Krozik's, and then he saw the hounds, the blood-soaked Kroot warriors, and beasts, dripping with saliva and gore, rushing towards them. He calculated the odds, the speed of his comrade versus the monsters behind him, and pulled the trigger. The door panel exploded, and the doors hissed shut. But Krozik! Trask protested. He was gone, young blood. Sarosh cursed under his breath. "And we will be too if we don't get the hell out of here." He turned back, staring into the cursed maze, swallowing hard. It will be challenging, but with some luck, the lights went out. The corridor plunged into darkness. Sarosh blinked. Darkness was no enemy of his. He was Trandoshan. "Let's go," he muttered, moving forward, relying on every ounce of navigational skill to find a way out of a sphere. They hadn't run more than 100 meters when he heard it, the unmistakable sound of Kroot. They were behind them. He spun around, opening fire with his rifle, hitting nothing. His eyes darted frantically from side to side. Where were they? "Here! There's another path! Here!" Thrask screamed in pain. Sarosh whirled just in time to see a Kroot warrior slashing the young pirate with a massive knife, blood spraying in every direction. But that wasn't even the worst part. The Kroot was nearly invisible. His thermal signature should have been obvious, but it was gone, masked, hidden, as if the warrior wasn't a person at all. Sarosh cursed under his breath and ran, desperately scanning for any exit, any path to salvation. Suddenly, he stopped. Dead end. The corridor ended in a blank wall. He quickly grabbed a flare from his side. The crude might hide their heat, but light could reveal them. One swift movement and the flare ignited, bathing the corridor in crimson light. He dropped it at his feet, backed against the wall, and raised his rifle. Silence filled the corridor, broken only by the hissing of a burning flare, until he saw it. Heat, but not the heat of a person. The Kroot stepped slowly into the light. Green, still warm Trandoshan blood spattered its body, chunks of flesh and gore around its beak. Sarosh's hand trembled as he focused on the silent figure before him, massive knife clutched in its left hand. Then, to his horror, the Kroot spoke in Dosh, his own Trandoshan language. "You are stronger," the creature said, its words harsh and unfamiliar on its alien tongue. "It will be good to have that strength." Sarosh was strong, and he fought back, but in the end, his strength was added to that of the Kroot.